2024, I hereby call this meeting of the Boca Raton Airport Authority Board meeting to order. And I want to also note that Vice Chair Randy Nobles and Member Mel Pollack are both traveling and unable to participate via telephone. Ms. Landers, please take the roll. Excuse. Here. 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 And I do see a quorum is present. Moving on, we'd like to introduce our two new summer interns this evening. And I'd like to ask Rob and Florence to introduce both of them.
Thank you. I want to introduce the accounting intern that we have, Kathy, right there. She's from FAU. She is majoring and double majoring in finance and markets. There. We're looking back to her and have been over about 2.5 years.
Welcome. Welcome. Yeah, great.
And I would like to introduce Lionel Merrill, our intern for airport operations. I'd like for him to introduce himself.
My name is Leonardo Romero. I'm a student from Cuba. I'm a senior at the university studying aviation operation. I'm grateful to be here, and I thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah.
Great, welcome.
Wow, two great, outstanding choices there. We look forward to working with you over the summer and helping you advance your careers in aviation. Moving on, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th, 2024?
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Hello, Mitch. Number 3, agenda items. Ms. Bennett. Agenda changes.
Do you want to announce that Mr. Fogel has arrived?
Yep.
A full roll call.
Thank you.
I should know you like. Everybody want to take a seat?
Thank you, Scott. Ms. Bennett, any agenda changes?
Yes, sir, there is one. We were all excited to have actual federal, state, and municipal input this evening. However, Representative Peggy Gossett-Seidman is out of the area and unable to join us. She has asked, however, to come before you to give you an update on the state legislative session at the June meeting. So item 6A will be removed from the agenda.
Thank you. Item 4, public requests. If any member of the public wishes to provide a comment on any item, the time to do so is now. Please complete a public comment card identifying the item upon which you wish to be heard and provide it to Ms. Landers. The public comment cards are located back of the room. Each member of the public wishing to comment will be provided with 5 minutes to do so. The chair reserves the right to move the public comment opportunity on a specific agenda item to the point in the agenda when that item is to be considered and/or to extend the allotted time per speaker. Item 5, consent agenda. There are no items on the consent agenda. Item 6, federal, state, and municipal input. There is no input based on the agenda change that noted. Item 7, financial report. Vogel.
Hey, everybody. Okay. Let's see. Well, is this still accurate that the fuel changes? The fuel revenue numbers are still not in?
No, this has been updated.
They've been updated. Okay. All right. Well, we do have the actual fuel numbers that are available, and Robert is going to give us our presentation. So, Robert,
Yes.
floor is yours.
So yes, as Mr. Vogel mentioned, as like the original report that you received on Wednesday, the fuel revenues were estimated. We got them the next day, so that was sent out to you on Friday. That's what you presented here, and you should have updated report on Friday. So as you see, total operating revenues are approximately 4.2 million, and that is 9.8% above projection to date. Total operating expenses year to date are approximately 2.8 million, and that's down about 21.9% budget year to date. That's primarily due to some expenses that are expected to occur later in the year. Net income before depreciation is about 1.1 million. So on behalf of airport management and Secretary and Treasurer, we expect that the financial report to the airport board.
Thank you, Robert. A motion to approve the April 2024 financial report. Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item B, motion carries. Item B, presentation of the financial report for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, as prepared by the authority's independent auditor. Mitch.
Yes, great. As everyone is aware, BRAA and Associates continues to be our external auditor. They've completed the audit as of the end of our fiscal year, which is or was September 30th, 2023. The audit included a review of our financial statements, including a statement of net position changes, statement of net position, and a statement of cash flow. BRAA also audited the grant accounts to determine compliance with state and federal grant requirements for airport projects. They also audited our investments for compliance with Florida statutes. Once again, I can report there are no findings for the audit year. I reviewed the audit report one-on-one with David Kaplowski from BRAA, which I did recently, and was satisfied with the process and the results. There is a new GASB pronouncement that took effect for the current year. The audit, which has to do with how subscription-based information technology software is handled. David will walk us through that and the entire report. David, I will turn it over to you. Where you are, there you are.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. My name is Dave Kaplowski, I'm audit partner with BRAA Associates for the district, the authorities, independent auditors of their financial statements. Just so that the authority gets an audit, besides it being a good business practice, is that the state requires is already get an independent audit of the financial statements every year for it. I'm happy to report that the opinion that we gave the authority on its financial statements is the best opinion that we can give, which is an unmodified opinion or clean opinion of financial statements, which means that financial statements are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. There's also opinions that we're required to give related to the internal controls over financial reporting and the internal controls over compliance, as well as compliance over the grants that the authority receives. And all of those opinions also were clean or unmodified opinions. Thanks to the authority for the staff, the authority and attorney for providing all the information that we need in order to do our job, which is to provide that assurance to the board and to the public that the information in this report is accurate and in accordance with accounting principles. I'm just going to briefly go over the balance sheet because every month you guys go and get the income statement. So the balance sheet at September 30th, 2023, statement of net position. The bottom line was that the authority's unrestricted net position was 18 million to September 30th, 2022. To put some perspective on that, that is about the operating expenses for the operating revenues for September 30th, 2023, 9 million. So that's about 2 times that. So given the authorities' frequent projects, very big projects in grants, and expenses, I believe that's an appropriate for unrestricted net position. Like Mr. Vogel said, there was an accounting change this year. They were introducing a different way to account for long-term agreements for software, which the district, the authority had a few of those. Nothing too material, but it is bringing onto the balance sheet long-term liabilities for software agreements. As far as the amount, that the effect of that this year, it's in note 7. At the end of the year, it was 155,000. Not very significant, especially compared to the big accounting change that happened last year in regards to leases. Besides that, I'd just like to thank the authority for giving us the opportunity to serve as the independent auditors of the general budget.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Mitch.
So, I went through this thoroughly the other day with our staff, and I went through it yesterday with him. And I gotta give props to our staff for the great job that they do. Really, it actually made going over with David so routine. And there's nothing exciting, guys. It is what it is. So, great job to you, and thank you as well. Great job.
Could we have this account for? Years?
Yeah.
9 years, wrapping up the 9th year.
And we have an ongoing contract?
I think there's one more option on the 5 years. There's a base 3 year with 2 1-year options at the board's option. So I think we'll be bringing that in June for the current fiscal year.
Anything else? Okay, looking for a motion here to adopt the 2023 financial.
Make a motion to adopt the audited financial statements as reported to us.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item C, presentation. Thank you, David. Presentation of the 2024 investment report. Mitch.
Okay, earlier this week, I met with our staff to go over our the reminders, the authority's investment policy mirrors the Florida statutes, and it does place limitations on the types of investments that we can utilize and the institutions in which we can invest. The primary objective of our investment strategy is to safeguard our authority's investment capital, ensure sufficient liquidity to meet the authority's needs. Investment income, while important, is considered after these primary goals. With that, I will turn it over to Robert Abbott, who will present the 2024 investment report. Mr. Abbott?
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. So the presentation, the 2024 investment highlights. As you can see, we had about $18.4 million invested funds as of April 30th. The increase is about 12.4% from 2023. And you can see there the breakdown of the funds. Most of them are in unrestricted CDs. We have restricted CDs that are security deposits for tenants. One thing of note in this is we do have, as you can see, it's a 1.5 million listed as cash in transit on this presentation. That is due to an investment CD that matured on April 30th and could not get deposited in time for the actual April 30th. Or however, that is now currently in a CD. So we have a projected total of 18.8 million as of the end of our fiscal year, so that was September 30th. And so then here is a list for the last 10 years, and this is as of April 30th. So you can see the increase there in invested funds. We also did take it a little bit further back too. For these numbers, these are actually audited numbers as of the end of the fiscal years, with the exception of obviously the 2024 numbers. Those were the estimates previously. But all the other numbers are actual audited numbers as of the end of the year, going back 20 years, back to 2005. So you can see the increase in the invested funds there. As far as the interest goes, we had, as of April 30th, about $512,000 in interest. It's an increase of 80%, so just shy of 80% budget. That's contributed to higher interest rates that we've been seeing. We expected interest rates to start to go down a little bit, and they have not yet. So we've been taking advantage of that, and it's been increasing that way. Also, the higher balances that have been going into it as well. We've averaged about 5.16% on our investments for rate of return across the board on that. And then here is the interest income over the last 10 years as well. So you can see, obviously, it's going to cycle with the interest rates. So when they were down, our interest income was low, but now in the last few years, they've been significantly higher. So you can see it there. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Robert? Thank you, sir, for helping us make our money make money.
Yeah.
Item 8, tenant reports and requests. Item A, Boca Aircraft Owners License Agreement, Crown Castle Fiber Optic Installation. Travis.
Chair,
Management has received requests from Boca Aircraft owners, the operator of the North Key Hangar Complex here on behalf of Lynn University. To allow Crown Castle Fiber company to install fiber optic line into several these hangars that provide internet speed internet connectivity to things not currently have connectivity. This will involve a small amount of directional boring to tap into all existing utilities already looked at. The legal counsel reviewed the license agreement and provided input, and management recommends approval of resolution 51724, executing the license agreement with the Crown Castle Fiber LLC. We have representatives of Lynn and Boca Aircraft owners here. Any questions? Any questions for Travis or these gentlemen? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the license agreement?
So approved.
A second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 9, Executive Director and Staff Reports, Noise Abatement Operations Summary for the month of April. Florence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The operations and noise abatement report for April 2024. There was an increase of 21% compared to April of last year. For the fuel deliveries, Jet A, they saw a 10% decrease. The avgas remained relatively the same. Yeah. Noise concerns, there were actually 5, so correction in the memo that I believe says 4. There were 5 callers that made 412 calls.
And one of those 378. Yes. Yeah. So 99% basically came.
For the customs report, there were 200 clearings in April from 21 different countries and 52 clearings after hours. Are there any questions?
And so it looks like this was a record year with Turkey being, so that in the 6 years is that the
Yeah, I
farthest?
think Tahiti was the other one, but Turkey beat it by about 500 miles.
Who's counting? Well, that's pretty exciting. It's great. Anything for Florence? Yes, Gene.
Declare 2 vessels to no passage.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Good question.
Ghosts.
We'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
It must be a typo.
I'll say.
Well, our crew passengers? Yes, I do.
There were drowns, drone vessels.
Thank you for pointing that out. We'll clarify that. Thank you.
Anything else? Any vessels though?
Yeah, they were confiscated. No, just joking.
Thank you, Florence. Item B, Boca Raton Airport Authority Property Insurance Renewal. Ms. Landers.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. As usual, in May, we bring to you reinsurance for May. This last year, if you may recall, we put an increase that was $16,839. This year, the renewal will continue with Lloyd. The rate is slightly lower. It's at $115,961.45, which is about an $887 decrease. And so airport management is recommending approval of the renewal. Mr. Alex Blodgett from Blodgett and Associates is here and he's available to answer any questions you may have about the policy.
Thank you, Ms. Landers. Any questions for Alex? Yes, Alex, would you like to take the podium, please?
I just want to see you get up out of his chair.
Yeah. Earn his money.
Came all the way over here.
Yeah.
It's missing Jeopardy. Hi. So, what's the current environment then, since it went up so much and we've had to renew it about the same price? And I've seen that a lot in my business too.
Now, I think that it's gonna, next year you can go down, back down some. That's kind of how we're seeing it's plateaued. Probably another 6-8 months. I think you're seeing that on commercial property, which is considered. And with the new carriers coming in, I think we'll see some changes on some.
If we signed the contract, right, essentially, get the policy.
Yeah.
If the market changes and a lower premium for a comparable product becomes available down the road, are we locked in for the year? Or
Yeah,
can we
you
swap
are.
out?
And the reason is it's 100% earned because of feature. So otherwise, everyone would cancel as soon as the wind season's over and take out a new policy. So it is, you gotta run it out for a year.
Okay.
But your prediction and many others I've heard too, is that it's leveling off and can possibly go down. That's assuming there will not be a catastrophic hurricane, that will come ashore, in the state of Florida.
That's assuming that, yes.
Yeah, right. And
That's it off.
given that the forecasters are predicting and way above normal hurricane season due to global warming and ocean temperatures, things like that, we won't be breathing a sigh of relief until November 30th, probably. Okay, just wanted to put that out there.
Mr. Doom and Gloom.
I'm just stating it like it is, man. Anything else for Alex? Okay, thank you, Alex. Is there a motion to approve the renewal? Second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C, Boca Raton Airport Authority appropriations request. Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As was reported previously, we were not fortunate enough to have received the two appropriations requests that we made through this legislative session for a number of reasons. And we thought as a team that it would be beneficial to have Mr. Chris Lyon here and give us the benefit of his experience as to some of the potential issues that we may have run into and some potential strategies for future if the board decides to pursue a similar process. So I'd like to turn it over to Chris to make that deliberate.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll just start quickly with a sort of general overview of this past session. It was an interesting one with every session began. The governor was considered a prime candidate president, but as session began, it became apparent he was not going to have a place and withdrew his name, and that really changed the dynamics during the session. Not nearly as contentious this year as years past with, there were still some social issues that were dealt with, but unlike the previous probably two sessions, things were much smoother this year. They did pass another record budget, $117.5 billion. It has not yet been sent to the governor for his approval. Just today, the Florida Tax Watch issued their annual turkey list, which is their listing of appropriations they think the governor should consider for veto for various reasons. So I was pouring through that today, making sure none of my other projects were on there, because that sometimes portends bad news. When Claire asked me to come and sort of give my thoughts on what happened, it's many times in the legislative process, you never get a ferment. You get hints here and there. But especially in the world of the budget, it is a black box, and you try your best to affect what happens inside that black box by doing things like what we do. We found good sponsors that put these at the top of their priority lists. We met the first thing we did was we met with this subcommittee chairman who chaired the appropriations committees that first have the first crack at these type budget requests. We then went and met with the appropriation chairman on each side because they're the next level. And then ultimately, we met with the Speaker of the House, staff of the Speaker, and the staff of the Senate President, and gave them our list of appropriations projects for consideration and support. At the end of the day, a lot of it, I think, was a numbers game. I spent several hours today going back through it. Just to give you a sense, there were over 2,700 different projects submitted this year for a total of $7.2 billion. That was the asks that were made. The House did something new this year where it funded things at 50%. Whatever the ask was, the House's standard response was, we're gonna fund it at 50%. So because of that, they were able ultimately to fund 1,600 projects, but only to the tune of $2.8 billion. So they only funded a third of, in dollars, a third of the ask, roughly a third of the ask that came in. I went down this rabbit hole today. You know, I wondered, was it where politics? You know, politics are involved in everything in the legislature. And, you know, Palm Beach County is primarily represented by Democrats, which, as everyone knows, are in the minority now in both the House and the Senate. So I wondered if that could have played a role in it. And based on what I saw, I don't think it was. Our House sponsor, Representative Peggy Gossett-Seidman, who's a Republican, she actually filed an abnormally large number of requests. She filed 31. And for a House member, there's 120 House members, only 40 senators. That was, I think, the most of any House member. And speaking with her during session about our project and just things in general, I was told that many entities from outside of her district, but within Palm Beach County, actually asked her to file their appropriations requests because of the political reasons, that they were represented by a Democrat in the House, and they thought that would portend poorly for their request. And so Representative Gossett-Seidman actually filed a lot of stuff for her district, but actually filed a number of requests outside of her district. At the end of the day, she had 12 of her 31 funded. We were 2 of those. As you recall, when we originally approached her about it, we came with 1 request. At her suggestion, we filed a second one at about half the amount of the first one. So 12 of her 31, her, again, just rough numbers, her requests totaled 33.7 million, and she was funded, her projects received funding of 4.8 million. So maybe 15% of the dollars she requested ended up in the budget. I went further down the rabbit hole looking at Senator Berman's request. Obviously, with there only being 40 senators compared to 120 House members, they represent 3 times the number of constituents the Senate does. So you would expect a senator would file more requests than a House member would. Sure enough, she did. She filed 50 requests to the tune of roughly $48 million. Again, Senator Berman's a Democrat. She got 30 of her projects funded, so 60% funded. Dollar wise, she got 15 million funded, so roughly 33% or so, 37%. So she actually, both from a percentage wise of projects and a percentage wise of dollars, she actually fared better than Representative Gossett-Seidman. So I don't think politics were the issue. What other possible issues could there be? The size of the request. $2.8 million is a rather large request. You know, looking down at Representative Gossett-Seidman's requests, most of them, there's a $12 million outlier, but most of them were $500,000, 1.5, 800. So, you know, the size, and that we talked about that up front, is the larger the ask, the more difficult it is. What ultimately ended up happening, just to give you the recap, the Senate funded our project initially, the House funded our project initially at the 50% mark I mentioned, $1.4 million. The Senate did not fund it in their budget, but because we were in one side's budget, that kept us alive for the budget negotiating conference, where the 2 sides come together to figure out how they're going to do their budget. We worked extremely hard. Representative Gossett-Seidman was pushing hard. Senator Berman was pushing hard. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it did not make the final budget. And I wish I was here with better news for you today. I do understand that there was a plan B and sort of in the background that I didn't know about that might have worked out. So I'm happy to hear that here. But you know, that's sort of a recap of what happened this year. You know, going forward, I would love to have an involvement with the Air Authority again, if there's any interest. Whether it be on appropriations issues, whether it be on policy issues. One of the big things I worked on this year, there was a lot attention paid to special districts this year. And there was a bill, that would have really been detrimental to all special districts. We were able, working with other folks, to defeat it, but it would have required every special district to go on the ballot this year, in the fall of this year, and if the voters didn't reauthorize the district, it would be dissolved. And then every 10 years, you would have to go back on the ballot. So there was a lot of attention paid to special districts, and I don't foresee that going away when, for whatever reason, legislature views special districts in a different light than they do cities and counties. But you know, I'd love to be involved in it. If you all have additional issues, whether it be money or policy, I would love to have it, you know, be able to work with you all on that.
Great.
Was there any questions?
A little bit about the plan B that didn't work out. You said I had a plan B, but didn't quite get there.
I'm sorry, either I misspoke or you misheard. I was informed yesterday to Claire that, you updated the board on this,
I have, yeah, I think everybody's aware. So as I mentioned in my one-on-ones with each of you, when we heard last month that we were not going, or the month before, that we were not going to get the appropriations when it failed. And we had the two bids of the alternates. We went through our traditional funding sources to see if there would be any, what we call fallout money, they call recon money. We were placed on the list, and we were notified actually on Monday that we will be getting that funding and luckily for us, for both ponds at 80%. So that we should be bringing to you an amendment to the grant agreement with FDOT in July, along with contract award for the contractors, the same contractor, as you may remember, who was awarded the work on the air side.
Yes, I thought Chris meant he had a plan B that didn't get launched.
Yes.
So in hindsight, I know you tried to, as we all do, dissect what could we have done differently. Did anything come to mind?
The only thing I wondered, is when we started brainstorming, to figure out what type of project this year might we look at, I noticed that there's a large pot of money for the previous 7 or 8 years for water projects. And I noticed in that list from last year, an airport that had a water project. And I know there was concern talking to Clara that, when we were talking about this originally, that we didn't want to look like we were doing a money grab from the State Transportation Trust Fund that looks like we're taking money potentially from other airports that maybe are higher up on the list or already in a work plan, something like that. So we thought that was perhaps a perfect spot. It had been done last year, the previous year. And so we took those stormwater ponds and packaged it as a water project. You know, I look back at the budget, there were roughly 10 or 11 airport projects sprinkled throughout it. Most of them were in the transportations. There was one again this year in the water projects. It was for $2.8 million, exactly what our ask was. It happened to be from the senator who controls the environmental budget. That side it happened to be in his district, which so often that plays into this. So in hindsight, the only thing I could think is, would it have made a difference if we packaged it in the transportation silo and talked about economic, I mean, we did talk about it being an economic development, stormwater, pedestrian safety, all these things. But packaging as a stormwater, would it have made a difference if we would have tried to stick it into the transportation side of things, make the same arguments, but have it in transportations? That's the only thing.
One more.
Or have the Senate chairman represent there.
Easy peasy.
You're right.
Is there anyone that you could have a direct conversation? I had, but that you can go to and say, you were in the room.
That was why I was hopeful. Originally, Representative Gossett was going to be here with,
Yeah.
and we were going to give you my side of things. And she was going to give you her side of things. She's actually in the room.
Okay.
You know, she may not be on the final cutting room floor when the two budget chairmen and their top staffers are in there deciding what makes the final cut. But she's the one that's going and having one-on-one conversations with the appropriations chairman and trying to push her priorities over the finish line. So I was hoping to have her here to do that little one-on-one. She had originally said she was gonna come, and then she had a last minute change of plans, and she did offer to come next month and give you her thoughts there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Chris, quick question. Do you think sometimes, because Palm Beach County and especially Boca Raton are perceived as affluent areas, that can sometimes work against us because they think, oh, you guys already have a lot of money?
Well, I don't know. Interestingly, reading that report this morning, the tax watch report, one of the major themes in it is we don't know that the state should be funding local projects in general. And if the state's going to do it, we think they should look at these fiscally constrained counties, rural areas that don't have the tax base to support these sometimes very expensive projects. So Tax Watch certainly thinks areas like Palm Beach County should go it alone. And you're affluent enough, you should be able to afford it too. The legislators I've talked to in the past about the Tax Watch concept of things, they really don't like it. They think, what does Tax Watch know? I know my district better than anybody else. Even if you're talking about, sometimes Tax Watch says, rather than doing these one-off projects, we should set up grant programs and let the bureaucrats just rank the proposals, and then we'll send a pot of money to that program and let them fund the top ranked projects. Well, the legislators say, we don't think bureaucrats should be the ones deciding where the money goes. We're the appropriators, we're the legislature, the residents of Florida elect us to make these decisions, not the bureaucrats that have been sitting behind an agency desk for years. So I don't think so. I mean, Broward gets plenty of money. Miami-Dade gets plenty of money. I mean, the affluent areas get money as well. I just think it's, my biggest thing is it's a sheer numbers game. There's so many requests coming in and only a limited amount that can go out. Some have to lose, most lose, and they have to make the hard decisions. And, I know from direct conversations with our sponsors, they had it high on their priority list. The only one that they mentioned to me that was higher was Boca. The city had some water project that was higher on their priority list, but I was told that we were right below that. So, but we were in there, whatever, top 3, top 5, top 10. But looking at this, that's pretty substantial. You have 50 requests, but our sponsors worked hard. I know I worked hard. We touched all the right places. At the end of the day, I don't know the exact reason. Maybe Representative Gossett Seidman has gotten some insight since I last spoke to her, but even talking to her, she said, I just don't know why.
Well, I was pleased to see at least that one of the most meaningful legislative actions was renaming A1A to Jimmy Buffett Highway throughout the entire state.
Even that was controversial.
As a parrot head, I was quite happy.
Something like that, you sail through, even that was controversial. I think there were some counties in Northeast Florida that said, why is the state telling us what to name roads? We name roads. So, but even that was controversial.
It's always something. Well, thank you, Chris, very much. Appreciate it. Authority Board member requests and reports. Before asking any members if there is anything they want to say, I would like to publicly thank the mayor and members of the Boca Raton City Council for reappointing me last night at their meeting to serve another term on this board. I've really enjoyed the last 6 years. Look forward to a couple more. Great.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who got reappointed. Also, just a shout out to Robert Pratt and wish you the best of luck. Thanks for all your hard work over the last several years.
That's all I know. Me?
Can we get an update? I see some activity next door here on
Oh, yeah.
what's going on there.
Yeah. Let's see what's
Certainly, I can
going
provide
on
a
with the
brief
observation.
update. Unfortunately, we are still in the sort of Ouroboros effect of permitting. We're on our second round of responses to the city. Hopefully we'll be able to get those responses in this week. And then with any luck, they'll approve the permit after that, because I can't imagine there'll be much more that they can comment on that. We do have the Swift Mud approval of the South Florida Water Management District. We've got PWR squared away, PAR squared away. We did do the tortoise burrow mitigation. Basically, we just collapse burrows and move them outside of the project site until after the project's complete, and then they can back in. But for now, we're kind of in a holding pattern.
And is that what we're seeing out front with the black plastic?
Correct. That's the silt fencing. Typically, that's used to prevent silt runoff from the site when you're conducting excavating operations. We're using it in this case to prevent the tortoises from moving back in and having to re-mitigate burrows between now and the start of construction.
They'll move back. They have little homing devices. They like to come back to where they started.
Great. Anything else, Gene?
No, sir.
Ms. Bud? Mitch?
No, I would just reiterate, thank you to, city council for getting me appointed again. And I appreciate it. Look forward to the next 2 years and working with you guys. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Great. Public comment, Ms. Landers? And other business. And as Jim alluded to, sadly, a little bittersweet. We have to say goodbye to Mr. Pratt over there. And we want to thank you very much for your significant contributions to the airport operations, the noise abatement program. And what I think has been one of the most special programs that you've done is the development and execution of the safety management system program, which has been just terrific. So we wish you Godspeed, good luck, and please keep in touch.
Keep my device.
Please, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I was saying a few words tonight, I put together a 35 presentation. I just want to say thank you, Clara and the team. The 8 years that I've worked in aviation, I've been at the Boca Airport, the signature for 3 years, and then I've been with the airport authority for the last 5 years. So it's a little scary, change and moving to another airport. But yeah, I've accepted a position as airport community outreach manager at the Venice Municipal Airport. So my family and I will be relocating to the west coast of Florida in the next few weeks. So again, yeah, thank you for the opportunities and the opportunities to learn and grow. It's been a truly amazing experience being here. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other business to come before the board? Seeing none, the next meeting is scheduled for June 19th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the conference room at the Boca Raton Airport Authority Administration Building. Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
Yes.